Well, I've debated adults, and they are astoundingly stupid. Wow, is that where the debates are happening these days? TikTok? I feel like a fucking dinosaur compared to the people over there. I don't want to. I don't want to schedule a debate on some serious topic. And then like the cam turns on. There's a 15-year-old doing a Fortnite dance, and then I lose. I mean, that would just be devastating for me. The last time I did any foray into TikTok, I did notice, like, it seems like the people there, even the conservatives, and I do generally think conservatives are dimmer, but they were on it, like way more so than their YouTube contemporaries. I've debated a good run of the YouTube conservatives, and I think most of them are honestly quite thick, like it's not like I mean, even the brighter ones I think are just breaking parity, like just rising above the surface. But when I saw some of these conservatives on TikTok, like these kids, their arguments were way more salient. Wrong, sure, but more difficult debate opponents. I think I think you guys are getting faster. I don't know what's happening, but it's a little bit worrying. Okay, this is one of the things that I really wanted to talk about. Okay. When I went to high school, and this is not that I'm 27, okay? This is not that long
Hmm.
ago. I graduated in 2011, so I started in 2007. When I was in high school, nobody talked politics, all right? And from what I understand, in that generation, that was a pretty common experience across the board. It wasn't completely not talked about. I know that we were in the later Bush era to the early Obama era, so it wasn't, there wasn't that much landmark shit taking place from the perspective of your average person, I think. But the these conversations just did not come up. But now I hear from my viewers, these stories. They'll talk about how like they're in their sophomore high school class and they were talking about like trans bathroom bills, or like they were in the hallway talking about like Strasserism with like the other people. And I'm thinking like, what the fuck are you doing? Is that you're 19, right?
Yes, I'm
Is
19.
this real? It's horrifying, I think, actually, if you think about it. I don't know. Maybe this could just be my ancient brain not moving with the times. I feel like there was almost something kind of naively special about getting to not participate in politics for a bit, in an active sense. Obviously that's a privileged perspective. If you're like some inner city black kid, there are political elements that are going to be introduced to you whether or not you like it very early in life. But holistically, I don't think like your average inner city black kid in 2007 was debating Strasserism at school. It was more of a lived experience kind of stuff. But now it seems holistic. There are people, sometimes myself even, who worry that, you know, children being heavily involved in politics from the get-go will make politics more unserious. But then you can look around and look at Sarah Palin, Tucker Carlson, Donald Trump, Alex Jones. It's not like it was serious beforehand. It's not,
I agree.
yeah, it's if people say, like the irrationality of children. Well, I've debated adults and they are astoundingly stupid. So, arguably, I think quite a bit
I
more
agree.
so. You like when you bring boomers on. I mean, it's not just the bad ideas. I think it's just the complete unwillingness to hear out any kind of opposition, which contributes, I think, to stupid positions in the long run. When I was getting into YouTube and online media, the left was just incredibly weak, in the sense that there was no impetus or drive to directly and aggressively confront talking points. The left was mostly relegated to like feminist critique channels that would post, 25-minute videos once every month with middling views where they would sort of, it was all very hug boxy. And there's nothing wrong with that inherently, but there was no sort of, I think, like vanguard of people who would just fucking argue, which is a shame because our arguments are easier to make. Really, we have the
They're way
upper
better
hand.
realistically.
They're
Like,
really
uh,
good. Yeah, well, I genuinely think that most people's intuitively held axiomatic principles are ones which resonate really well with leftism. Most people
I
have a
agree.
fundamental desire for equality and justice. Like just now, this isn't intrinsic or anything, but a lot of people seem to like this across cultures and time periods. And I think that, yeah, and fairness. And I think that leftism does a much better job of, fulfilling these values than conservatism ever could. But if you get locked into some of those misconceptions early on, well, heavy policing is fair because criminals get what they deserve, drug addicts die, well, that's their fault, etc. There are ways that those intuitions can be polluted. But if you just get the ball rolling early on, I mean, you can have a lifetime of really committed leftist argumentation. So, yeah, I'm heartened by that. I think one of the worst things that ever happened to the semantics of discourse is when radical and impractical became associated. Radical is always relative to the perspective of the time. Democracy would have been radical in 14th century
Exactly.
France. So would, women's suffrage. I mean, just radical ideas. I mean, this is very much dependent. If an idea is radical, that says as much about the society that it's in as it does about the idea itself. You should talk about whether or not these ideas are good. And I think often, that is the line used to demark people like Bernie Sanders or people more to his left, or even less to his left, honestly.
Yeah.
Radical ideas. Well, again, that doesn't mean anything on its own. That has absolutely no bearing on the worth of the idea. It's just sort of implicit condemnation of the system as it stands, which, again, is kind of sad, I think.